breakthrough I had this morning, which is really cool. So it's to do with the framework and how I write it and how I'm going to change the diagram and change how I write it because I realized something, and it's something that's kind of been in my head. Hey, Maria, something that's kind of been in my head bothering me for a while. Hey, Jay, about how I drew the framework and what's in it. Okay. Hey, Mike, what's up, man? So anyway, as I was sitting down in my early morning, so I take like an hour or so at least in the morning, and this is a great practice, whether I'm meditating, praying, writing up ideas, right? Just creating that creative space to come up and have ideas about stuff. Hey, Mike. And so today I started sketching out because I want to create a teaching tool for children. And I sat down, started writing down the different principles and so on. And I realized, and I'd realized this before, that there were only really three primary rights or principles in this, right? So the outer layer, the effect that's here, is not a primary right. It really has to do with just allowing people to more clearly see what's going on, particularly when we look at it in the legal side. But I finally figured out where to put it, right? I knew it had something to do with creations, but it's not one of the primary circles. So what I understood was this. So this morning I was like, okay, I get it now. That's not where it should be, right? Because it's not a primary right. It actually goes under this circle. It actually goes under creations. So what do I mean by that? We have our primary right is one, right? Our right in our body, our ownership of our body, right? That's a primary right. I have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The second one is I have a right to create, right? I have a right to create. A lot of things, and as I was thinking about it this morning, I realized so many things that we think of as our rights fall under this. For instance, what about free speech? Free speech is our words. That's what's coming out of our mouth. Okay, so the right, our words are a creation of ours, right? Our ideas. Okay, freedom of thought. Okay, we have the right to work, to provide service. See, that's a right that we have to create, to provide service, to create products. This is a right that we have. When we use our body or our minds, we have a right to create things from them. Now, under each one of these, we have a right and we have responsibility. Okay, so I have a right to my body. I have a right to not have someone attack me. But I also have a responsibility that I don't go harm other people. You see? Now, under my creation, I have a right to create. I have a right to speech. I have a right to my ideas. I have a right to work. I have a right to create inventions. This is what I can do with my body. But I also have a responsibility. Now, what's the responsibility? Under this level, there's two areas of responsibility, right? One is that I don't destroy other people's, right? So the responsibility is I don't destroy other people's creations, okay? And the second area of responsibility is I need to manage my own creations. I need to manage the impact of my own creations so that my own creations are not harming other people, right? So this is where this layer really goes. Manage the effect or impact. It actually goes under the responsibility under my creations. You see? What do I mean by that? When we say we have to manage the effect or impact of our creations. So let's look at words. Let's look at free speech as an example of this. We have a right to free speech, but we don't have a right to damage others with our speech. So slander, if I start telling lies about somebody else that damages their reputation and their ability to earn a living, okay, then I don't have a right to do that. That is a violation. If I yell fire in a crowded, right, this is a crime. If you yell fire in a crowded cinema and people start stampeding and people get crushed, you see? So that is, I don't have a right to do that. I don't have right to yell fire. Now, if there is a fire, truth is the absolute defense, okay? If there is a fire, if someone did actually, commit a crime, right? And I tell other people, hey, this person committed this crime, and it was true, then that's an absolute defense. That is fine. If I yell fire in a cinema and it's true, then that's fine, because those people need to get out of there as quick as possible. If I was to yell fire in a cinema and it was not true, right, then I do not have the right to lie about something like that can damage all of these people. Understand? So our right is limited by our responsibility not to do things that harm people. So when we have to manage the effect or impact, right? So in this layer, we're talking about this, instead of being its own circle, it actually goes under the layer of creation as a responsibility. So if I create a car that has a defective gas fuel line, and when it gets hit in a certain way, the car explodes. So instead of just getting a dented bumper, right, and maybe getting shaken up a little bit, the car explodes and kills you, right? Then I know that and I knew that, right? So if the car company knows that that's happening and they don't recall the cars and fix that, then they have created something. They did a creation that is now harming people. And they have to, it doesn't matter that they can't say, well, we didn't hit the car, we didn't, you're not supposed to hit cars, right? They can't take it away with that, because they knew that it had an issue and that their creation was going to harm people. More than likely, they have a responsibility to recall it and to fix it. So we can go into all kinds of topics about, if you realize that what you have created can harm people, what is your responsibility to manage the effect, to tell them about the impact, right? Let's say you create a drug or a vaccine, and you have to manage. If you do not tell the people, this is what we are observing, these are some of the side effects of this drug or this vaccine. If you do not inform them before they take it so that they can actually make a real choice, right? So we are seeing this all around the world today, right? Whenever, how when you see those drug company ads on the TV, and then at the end they say, they have this like beautiful people dancing and holding hands and, all this baloney, right? And then they say, oh, and by the way, at the end, they say it really, really fast. You can also, have sore mouths, explode, diarrhea, right? They list all the possible side effects that are going to happen to you if you take the drug. Now, they are required by law to do that, because you need to know what those side effects are before you make a choice. Otherwise, you are not able to make a real choice. And the choice, that level of that choice, goes into the third, right, which is the deal, right? If I don't have all of the information to make a choice when I make a deal or an exchange, and I decide I'm going to buy that drug, or I'm going to put that drug in my body, that's I'm making the choice to create a deal, then I don't have all the information I need to actually make a valid choice in that way. So this is why we have that as a regulation, that they have to tell you the possible consequences and side effects. It says you can create the idea of a virus to blame it on. Yeah, Mike. So that is the issue, right? If you are telling people lies with your words that are harming them, right, then they're having a negative effect or impact. Then how much are you responsible for that? How much are you responsible for that violation? Or if you tell them part of the truth, but you don't tell them the rest of the story, then you can't. This is why we have, like in the SEC, For instance, right? The SEC has all of these regulations about when a company goes and lists on the stock market and people choose to purchase those shares, okay? The SEC makes the company create a huge, like 100 pages, like this huge document, which is all about, it's the IPO document, right? It's the prospectus, and it lists all the details about the company, and it has this big long section, which is called risks. And they have to list all these different risks. Now, unfortunately, most people who buy the shares of that stock never read that document, but they have to put it there because the SEC says, look, the information was here. You understood what the risks were. If you didn't read it, that's your fault. But the company can't hide from you the risks. If the company hides the risk and doesn't disclose it to you, and you buy it, and then let's say the stock drops and the company goes bust, and you lose your money, right? Then you can sue them and say, hey, you didn't disclose this risk, okay? But if the risk was in the prospectus, then you have no recourse because they told you that risk up front and you chose to do it anyway. See? So that is how these layers work. So we're moving this layer underneath this layer, right? Because really we have three primary rights. We have the right for our body, the sovereignty of our body, the protection of our body. We have the right to not have other people abuse, attack, murder, rape us, right? This is our right. We have a right to life, to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The right to liberty is as long as we are not harming other people, right? If we begin harming other people, then somebody might have to lock us up. So we stop harming other people. That's where our right to liberty ends, okay? That is where it should end. Sadly, in today and in our legal system, we have all kinds of laws where they lock you up for all kinds of things that have nothing to do with that. They have nothing to do with you harming somebody else, right? For instance, in court, they can lock you up just for sassing back to the judge. That's not harming anybody else, but it's called contempt of court, and the judge can lock you up just for speaking up against what the judge is saying that you don't like. This is examples, I think, of taking of a violation of this right. Okay, it's one thing to lock somebody up if they're actually harming other people, but it's another thing to do it if you just don't like, how they're speaking to you. Okay, so we have the right to our body. We have the right to the protection of our body, that nobody should be violating us. We have the right to create with our body. We have the right to make creations from our body, whether that's our ideas, anything like that. And then once we have created something, hopefully that is not harmful, that's not damaging others, right? Then we have the right to make a deal. We have the right to make a good deal. We do not have the right to make a bad deal. What do I mean by that when I say good and bad? I don't mean like, oh, it's a this or that, it's not like going to make everybody happy. I don't mean that kind of a thing. When I say a good deal, there are 5 principles of a deal. And I'm not going to go into them in this, okay? But there are 5 principles that make a good deal. And if you follow those 5 principles, then your deal is a good deal. We do not have the right to make a bad deal, however, right? Because if we violate any one of these 5 principles, then I would say that is a bad deal. And if we do violate the principle, we have actually created a property right violation. We've actually committed a crime. Okay? So that is, it's very important to understand the 5 principles of a deal because they are paramount to everything that happens in society. But I'm not going to get into them on this class, on this topic. I just wanted to explain to you guys the really sort of important change that I'm going to make in this framework, which is shifting this ring into underneath this ring. All right. So, and that was a realization that I had today because I had been wrestling with that for a long time because I knew This did not deserve its own ring spot, but I wasn't quite sure where to put it in the whole structure so that it would be clear. And now I understand exactly where it goes. So the lesson for you guys is don't neglect your time. Don't neglect your time to sit and to have ideas and to write and to meditate and pray or whatever it is you do. But give yourself that creative space, that time each day, because you can come up with amazing ideas and solutions to problems and figure out stuff, right? That's why that time is so important. And all the really great CEOs of companies, of huge companies, all the really good CEOs, the really successful ones, they all take that time for themselves. Usually they do it early in the morning. They all take an hour to 2 hours of just time where they sit, they come up with ideas, they write, right? It's their space. They're not looking at emails. They're not taking phone calls. They're not responding to problems. It's where they really think about the vision of the company or where it's going, or their creative ideas or their writing, whatever that is. So it's so important for each of us to take that time, and then we can come up with solutions to our problems. Okay? I hope you guys have an amazing Saturday and that you do take time to do that for yourself. All right. And I am looking forward to getting my graphic design artist to recreate this in a new way. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Bye.